everybody, it's Caroline Coram from the Boom Review, and this is the last update of 2024. Happy New Year to everybody, particularly to those who have just joined us on all of the different channels. So we, the Boom Review, are on Facebook, Instagram, Substack, TikTok, Rumble and YouTube. Over the last 3 years, there are about 100 to 150 of us who are focused on research, and there are about 6,000 respondents. These are people who will tell us how they're feeling when certain weather events and spraying are happening, or if they notice something unusual going on around them, and also helping verify what we're seeing on the flight and weather apps to what they are seeing in the sky. There is a huge collective of information, probably about 500,000 data points that we have gathered over 3 years to get to where we are now with the theories that we have. So it hasn't been a short journey. It isn't something we just picked out of a rabbit's hat and said, hey, we're going to come up with this theory. All of these observations are backed up with much detailed research, a lot of biology, originally virology, which we have more or less broken apart completely, and chemistry and radiology. So we've looked at all of those fields and reorganized everything, and now we have something that we think actually makes sense. On our call earlier this evening, the admins and trackers were talking about how we think fever actually develops. So what we think happens is that all of the free metals that we are ingesting and inhaling and that shouldn't really be there end up mostly in the liver, because that is our detox organ. And then when we are exposed to radiation, those metals then start to heat up. Then all of the metals that are dispersed around the body, the free metals that should be bound but aren't, are drawn towards the liver that is now very warm and in effect is behaving a bit like a magnet, drawing a current. So this is when you get this draining and cold feeling. So everything starts to heat up in your core, and your hands and feet and everything else starts to feel really cold, and you start to shiver. And that's when you get a fever. And then what we think happens is that the metal starts to react with the blood pumping in our body, and that reaction creates hydrogen, but it also creates extra water. And that is exactly what breaking a fever is. The fever breaks, you fall into a sweat, and the sweat and all the purging through the gut helps to flush out all of these extra metals that shouldn't be there. So it's really important when we get the urge to drink during a feverish illness that we do so and have water to hand just in case. Let us know what you think about that reinterpretation of a fever. Moving on to the sky update, we know that arsen gas has been sprayed quite liberally this week around the UK. The symptoms of having inhaled that are copious amounts of fluidy mucus. It's very clear, thin mucus that you'll have running out of your nose. You'll be coughing it up in copious amounts if you've been out a lot in it. This re-exposure to arsen gas and arsenic will then make it much easier for any metals that we inhale to go easily through our lung wall into the bloodstream, and any metals that we eat in the food that we consume through the gut wall into the bloodstream as well. Sometimes it also goes into the central nervous system via both routes, and you would tell that by any kind of shingles type reaction, any neurological reaction, a migraine for example, or strange dizziness. Not Grim up north, who is our Aurora tracker and one of our best flight trackers, has said that there is an aurora due over the UK at some point this evening. The signal for it is increasing now. The aurora is not normal at subarctic levels, and any lights that appear in the sky are likely to be irradiated metal. If you go out in fog now, or if you even go out on a hazy day, so you look on the horizon and there's a hazy day, you'll be breathing in those metals, even if you can't see it hazy in front of you. If you see it on the horizon, it's definitely hazy in your vicinity. You won't have any control over how much goes in. We're frequently given coding drops for the types of metal being used. 33 obviously is arsenic, 22 is titanium, 20 is calcium, 45 is calcium 45, which is radioactive. We've had quite a lot of that the last couple of days. The calcium 45 is likely to be a product of the aurora, especially if it's an orange or an orangey red colour. So on the carbon monoxide, we have had a theory building for the last 3 years of observation. We knew something was going on in the fault lines underground, looking at the patterns of earthquakes, the depths, and the frequency of heat spots seen on windy and Zoom Earth. We knew also that some of this fighting was coming above ground at night time. But what we couldn't do was prove that something was coming from underground. And since that, we've been able to verify that the carbon monoxide tracks the fissures and the fault lines and then disappears back into them once everything subsides. Carbon monoxide is a marker of a high energy or a nuclear weapon explosion. There are other markers, including xenon-133. If you look at the organization that tracks the emissions of xenon-133 to make sure that there is no nuclear activity underground, you will see in 2013 and 2014 that there was a huge amount of emissions around the northern hemisphere. So it kind of makes a laughing stock of this control, because then they said, oh, well, this is because there's loads of industry. But as the northern hemisphere has been reducing the amount of heavy industry, it makes absolutely no sense to have a massive increase in xenon-133 right at the time when Russia decided to invade Crimea. Xenon-133 is incredibly heavy on the lungs. When you get it into your lungs, it is incredibly difficult to get out. And I believe this is what ECMO was introduced for. This is a table that is used to pump the air out of the body of a patient using gravity. ECMO was the treatment used for some of the worst patients of the original SARS virus. I use the word virus very loosely here. So on top of arsen gas, the metals in the air and in the fog, and radiation coming from underground with xenon-133, carbon monoxide and other gases, we also have lightning radiation, which is emitted from large storms, of which we've had quite a few. There have been periods where in 48 hours we've counted in excess of 500,000 strikes just for the Europe area. And even though we don't really know how much radiation is emitted from each bolt or set of bolts of lightning, even if it was a relatively small amount, if you then multiply that by 500,000, it could potentially cast quite a significant amount of radiation. Just to spice the new year up a bit, we've got a stream of scattered lightning to the southwest of the UK, to the west of France and Spain, and there is also a fair clustering of lightning storms in the West Mediterranean level with Spain. So that will also add to the effects of the radiation that we'll be feeling from underground tomorrow. Many of us in our group religiously did not touch anything like Coke or Pepsi for years, and we wouldn't have even thought of it if we hadn't discovered that it contained phosphoric acid. And phosphoric acid is specific to binding harmful ammonia that comes from radiation damage in our bodies. So it is actually really useful because it is the quickest way to deliver it into the bloodstream through these dark sodas and drinks with phosphoric acid. Without the phosphoric acid, you have the ammonia flying around doing all sorts. Do not take bicarbonate of soda, because we, in our research about arsenic, have discovered that it also leaches. Not only does it leach arsenate from the body, but it leaches phosphate. And phosphate is what we really need to keep hold of, because that is what is keeping our cells together. Just a quick reminder that everything in this update is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. None of us in the Boom Review team are qualified medical doctors. If you need medical help, please contact your healthcare professional. Please do use the search facilities on all of the pages. Look at the different sites that we're on to see if you can find the answer to your question. We do have proof. Our main aim is to protect the data, so we're keeping the channels closed at the moment until such time as maybe we'll be able to put it on a digital archive. It's all to play for. I have a really good feeling about the next year. I don't know what the timescale is exactly, but I do think that this year is going to bring a lot of declassification of information on science, history, hopefully also some declass on things like UFOs and technologies that we know probably exist but that we haven't seen yet. Very exciting things to come, hopefully. I really do wish you all a very happy new year, and stay well, because we need to see the end. We are so close. We are so close. Take care.